I'm Allie, I'm a psychic medium and a channeler, and we're talking about spirit guides. This is part 4. So something else that I want to build on from my previous video is that you can work with all different types of guides, and some people can work with individuals and will have an individual guide step forward, which isn't very uncommon at all. That doesn't mean you just have one guide or that you can only call in that one guide. You really have a massive group of them, and there are infinite numbers of guides available, and they're all infinitely connected at the end of the day because they're non-physical, so they all are interconnected as one. They're aware of their sovereignty and yet their collectivity, which is very difficult for humans to grasp unless you've done certain substances or have had certain very deep meditations. And some people, I really believe, like certain children or certain people, just kind of come here knowing this, remembering it, and some people it hits them like a whack over the top of the head all of a sudden. Now our guides exist in it because they don't have physical form, and so you can work with individual guides, and you can have a bunch of surprising guides come in, and your guides can rotate in and out, as we were saying. But did you know that you can work with an entire collective at once? So for example, there's a group called the Seraphim. There's also a group called the Sophias that you can channel. You can channel, I've heard of a lot of people channeling the Divine Masculine. Some people work with entire clubs, crews, groups. I used to call my guides the A-team. And then I worried about trademarks and copyrights and things like that, so I stopped using that. But that's what they used to call themselves because my name is Allie, so they're Allie's team. You can call them whatever you'd like. I mean, I always think about them like they're your personal spirit squad or power posse. They are your cheerleaders on the other side. That said, they're not going to cheer you on with literally everything you do. They will always try and steer you toward the best and highest thing for yourself and for all, because they know that what is actually best and highest for you will not harm other people intrinsically. So they'll never really, if you're doing something that's harmful they will always try to steer you towards something better and higher for your soul or for you to experience. And so you can work with completely different collectives of guides from different dimensional realities, guides that have different purposes. I know that I've worked with the Sophias a bunch, and I even had a new one coming in named Serena lately. That said, you can work with very different groups of guides and people. There are some who work with, again, Divine Feminine and some with Divine Masculine, while some people only work with one guide at a time, which when you're starting out can be a lot easier on your body energetically. Guides are a very high frequency, and they can only come down so far because they're not dense, they're not in a physical reality, which means that we have to lift our energy up out of our perceived density to connect with them. And so that amount of energy can be quite a bit. And so for a lot of people, it feels like they stuck their finger in a light socket when they first start channeling them, or they get a little spacey and ungrounded. And the spacey feeling literally is just like you're walking around kind of dazed or kind of detached, and that's not what we want. That's not what your guides want either. However, you will the more you're working with them and working with meditations or energy work, and then being present in your life, going back in the world, the more you will be able to handle that amount of energy coming in, and the easier and easier it'll get to work with your guides over time and to take on different forms of energy from your guides. Now, just because you can work with these collectives and these individuals doesn't mean they're going to tell you everything you want to know. In fact, they really shouldn't. And that's something else people don't really, I think that might surprise people about guides, is your guides will help you, but they will often help you by redirecting you, meaning they're not here to answer every question that you ask. They're not here to make everything that you want happen with the snap of your fingers. They often cannot, have full, complete control over anything, and they can't interfere with free will. And often, sometimes less is more in terms of what guidance they'll give you or how much information they'll give you or give someone, because sometimes people can actually do a lot more harm, even unknowingly, by knowing too much. And this is also what goes along with like ethical intuition practices, is knowing like, just because I know something, am I supposed to be saying it, right? And so we would really have to listen to that higher voice of wisdom from the guides. As a psychic and medium, my guides have even blocked me from knowing certain information for people, literally because they were like, trust us, this person does not need to have this information right now. It would actually cause a lot more harm than good. And people don't seem to always understand that. I have seen that play out in action though, with a psychic that was not super ethical, and stated something to a client that she knew was not should not have been stated, and unfortunately it went very badly for the client. So it is important that we're maintaining that like kind of ethical boundary with our work. And your guides, you can always ask your guides like, hey, like if there's something I shouldn't be knowing or something I shouldn't be saying, pull it out of my reality, pull it out of my perspective, but help me to understand what I do need to be knowing. And so that all said, they're not going to interfere with your path or your plan. They will help you from the best and highest consciousness for yourself and for all, though.